Dude, you had a guy die on the field last season.
Yeah.
Do you really think taunting is a bigger problem you want to address? CTE? No, CTE is not an issue. We can't do finger guns. Can't do those. No finger guns.
It's a violent gesture.
Oh, yeah.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down to Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies you loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me is my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Happy New Year.
And each week we take a look back in time to decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you'd like to see all the movies we have covered, we'll cover one. Choose one for yourself. Please visit shatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie takes to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all our information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And finally, if you'd like to hang out with us live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, and our YouTube channel, where we play video games, host watch parties, and edit this podcast live. All that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing today?
Gene, before we get to tonight's film, I want to welcome you back. It's 2025. It's our first time recording, and this is the beginning of year 9 of Shat. So I'm excited to be here with you.
I got to admit, Big D, for this episode, I had to shake off the cobwebs a little bit. We don't normally take breaks as long as we have. It's been a couple weeks since we recorded. I'm glad to be back in the saddle with you, my friend, and hit 2025 on the ice.
Yes, agreed. And tonight's film comes at a perfect time. It's the end of the NFL season. Playoffs are around the corner. So to do a sports film is a lot of fun. We have a great history with a lot of sports comedies, some dramatic sports films. So tonight, for Jon W., our great listener, we're going back to 1977 to review the American sports comedy, Slapshot. And John was kind enough to leave a voicemail, which we always love, because we want to hear our listeners' own voices when they describe their memories of this film and why it was important. So I'm going to let John tell you why he supported us with this commission.
Hello, Shat crew. This is John from Gene's D&D Stories. Let's talk about Slapshots. It's been about 15 years since I've seen it, unfortunately. I meant to try and watch it before this, but that didn't happen. I suspect it's not going to hold up really well. The humor is of its era, let's say. You get to hear Paul Newman say fuck a lot, though, so that's a plus. I hope you guys at least enjoy it. I remember it being funny the first time I saw it, but that was when I was 16. I just started playing hockey. All my friends played hockey, and plus we were all a bunch of crude little bastards, so it really, really fit the bill. It was exactly the movie we were wanting to see. If I had to guess at a wipe rating, I can't imagine it getting lower than 3, probably more like a 3.5 or 4. But hell, maybe I'm wrong and it'll be amazing. Keep up the good work. Love the show. Hopefully I can watch Slapshot and Die Hard 2 before that commission comes up in a few weeks. If so, I'll give you an updated wipe rating on them then. I hope this movie is great or terrible, but not in the middle. So I guess we'll see. Anyway, peace for now.
First of all, John, it's been so long since I heard that voice. It just brings back a lot of memories. So Big D, John and I worked together for years in my day job. And he's a fantastic guy. And again, we're also Dungeons and Dragons buddies. And John, I watched both of these movies, Die Hard 2 and Slapshot, over the holidays. And they are really great holiday movies. So it kind of added to my, like, that warm feeling get in your tummy on a cold winter's day when you got snow. And I know a lot of people out there in New York and in the Midwest right now are getting tons of snow. So I hope everybody's warm and cozy out there and just enjoying your time. And I want to say thank you for kicking off this year with such a great pick.
I think we've beaten down the commissioners, because normally they used to come in passionate and try to sell us and tell us why it was great. The last couple have been like, listen, this is probably going to be bad. I know it. Just be kind. Don't give it a 4 or 5. So
John's also a very humble guy. So big, you know, those guys who just got too much going for him. He's tall. He's like a big, imposing dude, but also very good looking, very clever, super smart. He's like a computer whiz, and people just gravitate toward him. So he's the type that's just kind of got that calm confidence, you know. So I think that he's underselling this movie, and upon rewatch, we'll understand what a classic it is. Slapshot is a 1977 sports comedy starring Paul Newman that depicts a minor league ice hockey team that resorts to violent play to gain popularity in a factory town in decline. Nancy Dowd, who wrote the film, based much of her script and characters on her brother Ned Dowd's playing experiences on 1970s minor league professional hockey teams. While Slapshot received mixed reviews upon release and was only a moderate box office success, it has since become widely regarded as a cult film. Big D, Slapshot is another one of those cases where I had it mixed up with another movie. This time it wasn't even a hockey movie. Like, I am getting old, man. I thought that this was Strange Brew, which, I mean, both were well before my time, so I've got an excuse there. And I've never really been a big fan of hockey movies, so this wasn't really something that I would dig up and see as a youth or even as an adult. Needless to say, despite thinking Paul Newman's the most beautiful man I've ever seen, I had not seen Slapshot.
No, but Strange Brew, that's not a crazy film to think it was. It's Canadian.
Thank you.
You have the two brothers drinking beer. They like hockey. It's in Canada. There's a brewery. It's a comedy. You could easily see. I thought it was too. I thought there was some crossover there. Like, it was going to be a more slapstick and hijinks. I didn't expect it to be as dark and more thoughtful and maybe satirical take on hockey. This was a different film totally. And as the old man on the podcast, Slapshot, it was even too old for me. I had never seen it, obviously, when I was a kid. And then you have that gap until like HBO and cable TV starts. This wasn't a big film, so I didn't get to see it. I wasn't a huge hockey fan growing up. So when I could go rent it, I never thought, hey, I'm going to go find Slapshot and rent it. Even though in my local town is where the New York Rangers and the New York Knicks used to live. So a few times a year, you would be able to go to Rye Playland, where they filmed the Zoltar scene from Big, and you could watch them practice. You'd meet the players. You'd give them the sticks. They would sign them. They'd sign pucks. It was great. I have good memories of it. So I was glad that we got to go back and to do this film, because I think it needed to be reviewed on the podcast.
Agreed. And in honor of John's Dungeons & Dragons character, Keth, and in memory of the Arizona Coyotes, let's hit the trailer.
I'm placing a personal bounty on the head of Tim McCracken.
You can't put a bounty on a man's head.
I just did.
Go get him, killer!
It's wild. It's outrageous. It's outrageously funny. Paul Newman, Coach Reggie Dunlop in this supercharged world of hockey, invites you to meet the crazies who make it that way. The players, Murderers Row. The wives, the fans, the managers.
We're losing!
Teamwork, guys, more team.
They're burying us alive!
Who are these guys? They brought their
Toys with them!
And hustling them all, Paul Newman.
Oh, you are very clever.
Leave him. My wife left me. I was driving her crazy.
Get out! You can't make him win. You're a losing coach.
Okay, guys, show us what you got.
Behind the comedy, the sex, the wild excitement, this is the absorbing story of one man fighting to hang on in a world gone absurd.
They don't want you to score goals. They want blood. They're booing you!
There's never been a film like Slapshot. There may never be another.
In the fictional Rust Belt town of Charlestown, Pennsylvania, the local steel mill is about to close permanently and lay off 10,000 workers. This threatens the existence of the town's minor league ice hockey team, the Charlestown Chiefs, which is already struggling with a losing season, indifferent players, and an increasingly hostile crowd. Player coach Reggie Dunlop, unlike most of the team, has no employment prospects outside hockey. As a money-saving measure, the team's penny-pinching manager, Joe McGrath, begins selling equipment and signs 3 young, immature brothers, the Hansens.
So, Gene, like I mentioned early on, we've done our fair share of films. It's about 20, and we did wrestling, we've done bowling, we've done arm wrestling, a bunch of baseball, some golf, boxing. We've done some futuristic robot fighting. We've done children, misfit teams. We've done, underdog stories getting into college, but none of them are hockey. Hockey is such a different beast. Watching it in person, watching it live, or watching a movie, it is a fucking crazy sport. They are flying around the ice. They're fast, the sharp blades on their skates. Today, it's dangerous. But you go back to the 70s and the 80s. It was a wilder time. These guys are not wearing helmets. I remember the NHL had to force players to wear a helmet. The boards, did you see how low the boards were, Gene? The puck is going off into the crowd. There's no nets. There's no safety. There was a time right before this where the goalies didn't wear masks. It's crazy. People were getting hurt all the time in the stands. And the film starts off and it's down. It's shot low, obviously, to make the game seem faster. But you can feel the hockey. It's believable. It's dangerous. It's chaotic. And it sets the tone of the movie. And it's fascinating now to think how hockey has evolved, but to start off in this gritty, dirty, shitty ice, drunk fans, half-empty stands, with some guys who are actors who can skate, it was a good start.
Being 44 years old, I'm at that age where I remember each phase of hockey safety being added on. Like, I remember the helmets showing up, and then I remember they had the helmets, but there was like no visor. And then people started wearing the visor, the rink being changed. Even still, like you mentioned, though, Big D, this sport seems designed to maim people. Like, what can we put together? Like, worse than baseball. And baseball is fucking dangerous, but the puck is still a puck. Like, look at that thing. It looks like a weapon of war. It is a projectile. Skates, as you mentioned, still razor sharp. Ice is hard. It's slippery and hard. And they're like, hey, let's take grown men, professional athletes, and have them colliding and fighting on this surface. And then you look at a stick, like a hockey stick, that is not a safe thing to be wielding around other people.
No, and if you think back, kids, if we have some younger viewers, there was a time also where the goalies didn't want to wear neck protection. They said, wow, what the hell's going to happen? Until Clint Malarchuk, there was a breakaway, and one of the offensive players, I don't remember what team it was, got upended. And Clint Malarchuk lifts up his mask and sprays, arterial blood all over the ice. And if it wasn't for I think the home bench where the doctors were right there to stop the bleeding, he would have died on the ice. But they're a completely different breed. These hockey players, in the movie, we see them stitching up lips, eyes. It's like a badge of honor, and it's something they pride themselves in. And they're fucking crazy dudes. And this movie, when we did our sports films, I kind of broke them down. I went back and looked. There's either 2 types of sport films. You either have misfit team or old mentor, grizzled veteran. So this one goes into the grizzled veteran movie. So it's the classic archetype. We have Reggie Dunlop. He's at the end of his career, but he's a little different than the ones we've done before. We did Crash Davis from Bull Durham and Roy Hobbs from The Natural. These are guys at the end. They love the game. They're trying to hang on for maybe that one last break. They're going to try to get back into the major leagues. They're going to have their chance. Here's a different story. You got Reggie. He's not chasing redemption. He's not going to be a better person, a better man, a better friend or husband. He is unlikable. He's not looking for any kind of good to come out of this. He's selfish. He's manipulative. He's an asshole. He says some shit. Like John had said that he didn't think the language in this would hold up. The way he describes Annette's son, that he says, your son is gay and he's going to be filleting men within a couple weeks if you're not careful, if you don't get a new husband. He is not a good guy. He's hard to pull for. And, despite his flaws, Paul Newman is a cool enough guy that he makes you kind of want to pull for him a little bit. And he carries the movie because of his persona.
I was shocked at how much of a dirtbag they made him.
Oh,
like every time I thought there would be a limit, he would just go a level deeper than that. Like you see him with his estranged wife. You're like, oh, he's going to try to work his way back together with her, right? Maybe like a Forgetting Sarah Marshall sort of thing where he's like, trying, but he's still, no. He is like straight up like he will fuck anybody and he will leave one group to go chase his estranged wife down because he wants to own everything.
And I kept waiting, thinking, okay, he's going to turn into the mentor here. Whether it's Crash taking Nuke under his arm and teaching him how to deal with reporters or talk to women or how to make love or anything. He starts going after one of the other hockey players on the team. He's the Princeton grad. Ned is having trouble with his wife, Lil. They're on the outs. He's being an asshole to her. So in steps Reg. Reg gets her to leave him and move in with him. So I'm thinking, oh, this is so nice. He's going to set up a protective place. He's going to make them realize they were in love and come back together. No, Gene, do you think given the chance that Lil had a couple drinks and she tried to sleep with Reg, a clearly older man, would Reg have done that as the team captain, coach, and player to his player Ned?
Not only would he have done that, I think he was trying to do that, right? It's like you can just achieve two things at once, right? He wants to get Ned pissed off, so he'll play a little angry and really commit to this new nasty sort of Chiefs. But at the same time, yeah, he's trying to get his dick wet, Which, by the way, they kept playing her off like she was some hot piece of ass. I was unimpressed.
Oh, but listen, the Charleston women, they make comments. It wasn't the greatest choices, but when she got her hair done, when she got the perm at the end, she looked better.
I don't know. Some of those groupies that were chasing the team were a little better looking than that.
There was a scene, Gene, where they're doing the mooning of the opponent's town. I couldn't tell if those were women. I couldn't tell if those were men. That was a lot of hairy, dirty asses that I would say it was probably 50-50 male, female. This town was not the most hygienic.
To quote Westworld, if you can't tell, does it really matter?
I guess when they're hanging out the window, it doesn't. But did you notice there was one person who did the mooning the way I believe it? It should be legs up.
Yeah.
It was almost like the birthing table. Somebody did the mooning. That's the way you do it. You show everything.
Big D, you mentioned that Paul Newman keeps Reggie just likable enough to carry the movie, and I totally agree. I'm a big Paul Newman fan. I think he's absolutely gorgeous. And as long as King B and I have been watching movies together, 30 years, we've agreed Paul Newman is the best looking guy, hands down, to ever be in a major motion pictures. You can keep your Timothée Chalamets, you can keep your Brad Pitts, okay? It's Paul Newman. That face, those eyes, that body. I mean, he had a fucking body for his era. But recently, I've been obsessed with 70s men's fashion, which we get a ton of in this movie. You got leather leisure suits, you got all kinds of cool shit going on. And I've decided that the best dressed dude of the era was not Paul Newman. Best looking, but not the best dressed. Best dressed was Robert Redford.
So I thought I was having a stroke. As I'm watching the movie, I'm seeing Paul Newman. And then I was like, who was it who played Roy Hobbs? And my brain could not allow me to also see Robert Redford. They combined into one beautiful man in my mind. And then finally, when I said, okay, I have to Google it because I couldn't come up with the answer, I think there are differences. You think that Paul Newman's the most beautiful? I do not. I think Robert Redford, he is the handsome, untouchable. When he steps into a room, everybody notices him. Paul Newman is the blue-collar everyman. He's on skates. If you watch him, he did in his real world. He was famous for his racing. He liked to race cars. On skates, he looks like he could do it. It's a believable portrayal. He is the perfect grizzled archetype of the veteran at the end of his career. It is Kevin Costner and Bull Durham. Paul Newman would be too beautiful. He's got to be the ultimate talent who was meant to be Babe Ruth. Yes, both handsome, but there is a distinct difference between the two.
I don't know, though. You got Paul Newman. He's got, I think the jawline is better. I think the eyes, I mean, like they both have blue eyes, but like Paul Newman's eyes are like an astonishing blue. It's jumping into an Italian grotto kind of blue. And Redford's just started that. But Redford's fashion sense, my God, man. That guy, like era after era. Look at what he was wearing in the 70s. I would kill for that wardrobe.
I would have trouble. If we did the Sting with both of them in it,
yeah,
that could be a narrative disaster for me.
Or we could do the Sting and then back-to-back Jeremiah Johnson and Judge Roy Bean, right? Like, you do our Pioneer era. We just do a whole podcast on Robert Redford and Paul Newman.
Oh, we got to do Cool Hand Luke.
Cool Hand Luke.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do a quick 180. Yeah, Paul Newman's a good-looking dude.
Gay. After seeing Charleston fans responding positively to violence, Dunlop unleashes the Hansens, whose play mainly consists of brutalizing the other team. Although some of the players are slow to adopt this increasingly violent and thuggish style of play, it excites the fans. Dunlop learns that the owner plans to sell the team, and to motivate the players, he leaks to a newspaper a fabricated story about a potential sale to a community in Florida, hoping that if the team becomes popular, it will actually happen. The brawls are bringing fans to the games, increasing attendance, and making that prospect more likely. So at this point in the movie, we get the Hanson Brothers. And I don't think I'm alone in saying the Hanson Brothers were my favorite part of Slapshot. They look cool, they're tough as hell, and they like to fight. Sometimes they don't even wait for the game to start, right? There's this scene where there's like the skate around, and on one pass, a dude like mean mugs them, and they just skate up and lay him the fuck out. The official gets in Steve Hanson's face during the national anthem, and he says, "I'm listening to the fucking song." This is called establishing boundaries. They are toughs, but they're not macho, and more people should do this.
No, they're pro team. Anything that Reggie says, like, hey, tonight we're going to play tough. Yeah, we're going to play tough. We're going to do it. They're on board for anything. They just like to protect their friends, and it's great. And if you know anything about this film, it's the Hanson Brothers. It's the glasses. It's those goofy looking dudes and Paul Newman. And I kept waiting. I'm like, where are they going to come in? Where are they going to come in? 46 minutes, Gene. 46 minutes I had been waiting. Are these Hanson triplets? What are they going to do on the ice? I assumed they were going to fight because you always see them bloody in any clips that you see. But I didn't know if they were going to be like Happy Gilmore and they were going to be buffoons on the ice and just like falling down and tripping people. These dudes can fly. They can pass. They're slap shots. They're hitting guys up in the announcers' booths. They can play hockey. And I could see how exciting it is. And I think without these three guys, even though you have Paul Newman in it, without these three guys, and they're distinct like the Coke bottle glasses, no one today would remember this. This would be like, I think, Major Leagues. Major Leagues, you remember, again, from another stupid set of glasses on Charlie Sheen playing Wild Thing. You remember that. And then you remember, of course, Wesley Snipes and a couple of the other background guys. But these three guys made this movie easy to grab onto, and I think that's why it's become such a cult classic even to today.
And you mentioned the athleticism in this film and like the speed of the action and everything. One rare thing that Slapshot does that you don't get from a lot of comedies is the camera angles they generally use. You don't get to see like action actually happening. And I'm not saying that the Hanson brothers were all like great skaters. In fact, I think one of them like couldn't skate at all. But like, even if it's stunt doubles or whatever, the scene where they climb over the fucking wall and like get into the stands in their skates, you get these wider shots where you get to see the action happening. It's mayhem throughout half of this movie. And it's great. It's a feast for the eyes.
Yeah. And even though I say that you need the Hanson brothers make it memorable, the supporting cast, even though they don't develop them, they're characters that you start to pull for. The French goalie, Froggy is great. You have Dave Killer Carlson. You have Mo Morris, the dude who's a pervert. He's like on Family Guy, the neighbor, the dirty. Yes, he's the dirty pervert. There are some of these characters that are just sprinkled in. You've got Ned. You've got some of the guys that they play against. You got Augie. You've got Dr. Hook. The characters in the background. They're great, and they make the movie because you needed these colorful characters because it is a misfit team. And you're right. As soon as Reggie picks up on how the crowd reacts to the blood, he knows he's got something because that's what people love about hockey. You like the fighting. It's the same thing with NASCAR. People pretend like they don't like the crashes, but everybody likes the crashes and they show it on the sports highlights. And today, hockey, I don't think it's the same, obviously, as the 70s and the 80s, and I don't really follow it that closely. But back in the day, every team had an enforcer. We had Chris Nyland. You had people who would go out there and like Ty Domi, who would just beat the piss out of each other, and it was part of the game. And it made me think, Gene, I'm a little bit older than you, and I'm going to play this as I talk about this for our listeners out there as old as I am. This is the theme song, Gene, to NHL 93 Sega Genesis hockey that I played as a kid. And the new feature that everybody fell in love with was the ability to make the opponent bleed. If I checked you hard enough, you'd fall down on the ice, your little legs would start kicking, and blood would pool out of your head. If I fought you and I punched you hard enough, you'd go down onto the ice, again, kicking your feet up, and then I would just get like a minor penalty, but I got to see blood. And it was dripping. The NHL made them take it out of the game. They said, no, that's not what this is about. They're trying to protect kids. It's such a sham. It's like hockey won't admit what it is or why people liked it, especially back in the 80s and 70s.
As a testament to what badasses hockey players are, big deal. I totally forgot about this story. Paul Bissonnette, he was a former Coyotes enforcer. He recently was at a restaurant in Scottsdale, and it was like 6 dudes who were drunk. They had already punched somebody at a golf course earlier. They showed up at the restaurant. They were getting rowdy, and they were like fucking with the staff. And he stepped in. He took on 6 fucking dudes. It left the restaurant, went over like the nearby CVS and shit until the cops finally showed up. So fast forward a couple weeks, I'm at the gym and I look over and it's the Biz. It's Paul Bissonnette. He's at our gym. He was like, well, after fucking fighting 6 dudes, I thought maybe I should like probably take some self-defense courses or something. Shows up and I'm like, I don't know if he needs any help learning how to kick ass.
Yeah, it was a position, Gene.
Yeah.
You were the team enforcer. And the Hanson brothers, even though they're a little wiry, you could tell they were going to just leave you in the hospital.
I do want to talk about this idea that you brought up, though, that people love blood, like that people watch, NASCAR for the crashes, that they got into the Sega Genesis game because of the blood. Currently, right, UFC, one championship, like fighting, combat sports are very, very popular right now. You know that because fucking jiu-jitsu gyms are filling up with a bunch of fucking yahoos. I recently listened to an episode of The Daily podcast. And they sent Sabrina Tavernisi, who's one of their hosts, to a UFC fight in Las Vegas. And she went in having never seen a UFC fight. And by the way, newspapers, podcasts out there, this is not cute anymore. Stop doing this. I really hate when they're like, we're going to do a report on the AR-15. We're going to send Paul, who's never handled a gun in his life, to go to the shooting range and see what he thinks. We don't need to hear about it from a person who has no fucking idea. What it does is ruins the credibility of journalists, right? Because you're like, wow, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Anyway, they send her in, zero background, and she's interviewing fans on what they like about the UFC. And Big D, all these dudes said some shit like, it taps into some raw gladiator genetics deep within each man. And, it lets me unleash the rage that I can't show at home or work. It lets me, embrace the wolf inside of me or whatever. And I am screaming at the podcast, you're not training. You're not the one fighting, right? Hundreds of years ago, Big D, we weren't all gladiators and warriors. Like most dudes were like happily raising radishes, like digging clams or something, right? A largely agrarian society. We weren't all out there, with spears and shields in our hands, right? I hate this macho bullshit that surrounds sports as if being a spectator makes you tough through osmosis. And that is not to say that it's not okay to like fights in hockey. And that's not to say it's not okay to like a crushing hit in football. That's fine. You're watching a sport and something exciting happens, something brutal. That's okay. But to say that it is helping you explore your manliness, that it's being suppressed, bullshit.
No, I think that's stupid. And I don't think that's what it is. But the home run, chicks dig the long ball. It's the home run. It's the big hits in the NFL. It's the big hits in hockey. It doesn't have to be blood spraying all over the place, but everyone likes to see that explosive play. And hockey was the only one that had it that you could actually legally do it. In any other sport, right? Look at what happened there where the Hanson brothers go into the crowd because somebody hit one of the brothers with a keychain, right? That's malice in the palace. That's Detroit, people almost going to jail. If you had baseball players getting hit and running out there and breaking somebody's jaw with a bat, you would get suspended for the rest of your life. There's no other sport. Can you imagine if you could mix in fighting, Gene, to other sports? Like, imagine FIFA. You love soccer. Yeah. Imagine if your team, if the U.S. had an enforcer, and you just went over and you could elbow Messi in the mouth. And then their enforcer would come over. You guys would fight for 20 seconds. And then you got like a 2-minute penalty. It'd be a different sport.
I do think people underestimate how much being tackled at speed really hurts in soccer. Imagine you're running, because these guys are fast, okay? You're running 12, 15 miles per hour, and somebody takes your fucking legs out. A grown man. And that's the other thing is people are like, oh, these guys only weigh 150 pounds. Yeah, dude, but it's 150 pounds of muscle, and they're moving very, very fast. That shit hurts. The one thing I can't stand, if I may get on the soapbox again, the big D, is taunting penalties. Penalties for taunting. I was recently watching the Arizona State-Texas game, the Peach Bowl, and one of the players, he gets a first down or something, and he does the thing where, they hold the ball out in front of the linebacker and then just kind of like drop it in front of them. And he got a taunting penalty. Come the fuck up. The NFL, you cannot do finger guns. What the fuck?
Dude, you had a guy die on the field last season.
Yeah.
Do you really think taunting is a bigger problem you want to address? CTE? No, CTE is not an issue. We can't do finger guns. Can't do those. No finger guns.
It's a violent gesture.
Oh, yeah.
Ned Braden, the team's top scorer, refuses to take part in the violent antics. Games begin to devolve into bench-clearing brawls, which become increasingly violent, and Dunlop even offers a $100 reward to any player who assaults Tim McCracken, a player on the rival Syracuse team. The Chiefs rise up the ranks to become contenders for the championship. Meanwhile, Dunlop attempts several times to reconcile with his estranged wife, Francine, who intends to obtain a divorce and take a job in Long Island. After Ned's wife, Lily, moves into Dunlop to get away from him, Dunlop takes her to meet Francine, and the two women commiserate over their shared difficulties in being married to hockey players. Big D, I wasn't expecting the quote-unquote good guys, if there are good guys in Slapshot, to play dirty or be goons. It was a surprise. As you mentioned, I thought this was going to be kind of a yuck sort of comedy. But I also understand that they're not all bad. I understand there's an impulse to do anything to save your team. And the whole topic of winning at all costs got me thinking about other movies where the protagonist, the guys who we're supposed to be cheering for, will cheat or play rough. And I thought of like movies that I've seen, right? Varsity Blues, Bad News Bears, The Longest Yard. Out of that pack, I got to say Slapshot is considerably more enjoyable.
But again, they're winning, right? They're winning the games.
They're winning.
So they're not cheating. They're playing within the rules and they're being more physical. I don't think it's as if they're like putting plaster of Paris underneath their gloves. They might put tinfoil, but I don't think that really helps. It's more like a superstition, I think. That didn't help you fight.
I mean, but getting back to the Hanson Brothers, though, I mean, he attacks a guy before play has even started.
But the whole teams did. That was kind of allowed. It was all within. Yes, this isn't a case like I was thinking about other sports movies we've done where teams are overtly cheating, like Karate Kid. They're going after the knee, right? They're trying to hurt him. Here, they're not saying go up and break the guy's arm so he can't play. They're talking about the goalie's about his wife becoming a lesbian. They're doing things to get in the opponent's head. They're trying to be physical and intimidate the other players. I don't think this is cheating. I think if you let's do this to the Little Giants, right? The annexation of Puerto Rico wasn't the same as, hey, we're going to go out there and chop block the quarterback and blow out his knee or being dirty. They weren't out there cheating, throwing things on the ice to cause people to fall and get hurt. I'm completely okay with what they did. It was within the rules of the game.
But it made the game ugly.
The game is ugly. Did you see the ice? It looked like you could make snow cones. I don't think they had a Zamboni. The conditions were horrible. It was a bad example. It was a bad fucking example of sports and hockey all around. But most of the movies that we do, like we've talked about the sports movies, there is a balance. You have the on-field action with the team chemistry and the personal relationships of the characters. And Slapshot, it's a bit out of whack. I think there's a little bit too much focus on Braden and Reggie's messy relationships. It took us away. There were big stretches of the movie. I told you the Hanson triplets didn't come in until 46 minutes. Yeah. There was at least 20 minutes of Reggie talking to his ex, him stalking her in a bar, him following her, and then Braden trying to ditch his wife. There was less on-screen action and the team coming together. I would have liked to have seen more of the characters, find out their background. If you don't have that chemistry and it's getting deterred by this personal drama, it started to slow the momentum as the movie got going. Now, I'm not saying the relationships don't matter because they tell you about the type of man and character that Reggie is. It tells you about Braden. It tells you what to expect from them. But it shouldn't overcome and overshadow the sports itself. The sports in this film almost became secondary. To me, it felt more like a romantic comedy with sports in the background. I like to think about like Rocky or Bull Durham. It should be at least 50-50. This felt maybe 70-30 relationship to hockey.
I got mixed feelings on that one, Big D, because I think there's a part of this movie that was missing, which was Reggie coaching. Like, I would have actually liked to see these guys on the ice without an opposing team, just to see what his relationship was with the players. You don't really see that. Maybe he doesn't coach. Maybe that's the thing. Like, he's just a shitty coach and doesn't do any coaching. But on the other hand, in Bull Durham, we've got a major league player. In Rocky, we've got a world-class boxer, right? A champion. They're professional athletes. The guys in Slapshot, like, they can't make the NHL. They are a minor league hockey team in Charlestown, Pennsylvania. Every night, they're not out there working out. They're drinking in bars, smoking, traveling in a beat-up bus. They're sharing hotel rooms. Like, these guys are not making a ton of money. They have other jobs, right? They'd be just as happy working in the factory, right? Like, that's an option. I think women and booze are more of their life, maybe 70% of their life. And on-ice action is more like the 30%. So the movie reflects that. Well, eventually, Dunlop meets the reclusive team owner, Anita McCambridge, and learns that McCambridge could sell the team if she wished, but she would make more money if she folded the team as a tax write-off. He decides to abandon the strategy of violence for the championship game, believing it to be his last, and the rest of the team agrees. However, their opponents from Syracuse have stocked their team with violent goons. After the Chiefs are crushed during the first period while playing a non-violent style of old-time hockey and getting booed by their fans, a furious McGrath tells them that various NHL scouts are watching the game. So this scene, Big D, where Anita McCambridge tells Reggie she could sell the team but would make more money if she took the tax write-off, it really struck a chord with me. I have so many friends who now at our very adult age, they're decent people, right? Okay. But that childhood innocence, that optimism, that idealism is sort of gone. They are good, but they lose their scruples when it comes to money, right? It's like, I'll make decisions, sometimes take shortcuts, sometimes screw people over if it's going to put money in my pocket, right? And I feel like things are only getting worse as leaders like Donald Trump and Elon Musk demonstrate an entirely transactional philosophy. Again, we always have to put this caveat in the pod, right? Mm-hmm. I don't care what your politics are. What I'm saying is that these two guys demonstrably, right, believe in transactional relationships. That is a fact. The ethics there are give and get, right? If you want something, you have to give something. And they're proud of that. And I think people support them because they believe in that same transactional philosophy. I don't, okay? And there are ways to be smarter with money, but I absolutely refuse to do it if someone else is going to lose money, right? I will not take money out of another person's pocket. I will only take money if I'm earning it and it hurts no one. And I think each of us reaches that point of realization when you start to understand how the economy works, how business works, how money circulates. And I had that moment in 2012. I was working for a newspaper that was making money. And I thought that if there was a company that made money and everybody got paid and there was still money left over, that was good. Like, that's a successful business. That's not the case. That's not the case at all. Your business has to make enough money for investors to be happy, to know that they couldn't make more money putting their money in something else, right? And I just couldn't figure that out. You know, I think I was in my 30s at the time, so I guess I was just a late bloomer on this. But I was like, wait a minute, whoa. If you're making more than you put in, why would you take my job away? Doesn't make any sense, but it's the way it works.
You see, so this is one of the things I always get into, like, discussions with. We have group threads with some of my friends who say, Soto is not worth $500 million. I said, as an employee, the company is paying him $500 million because they expect to make $550 million, $600 million, whatever. Shohei Ohtani is worth $700 million if he brings in extra subscriptions, if he brings in merchandise. You're an employee. And with that being said, I want to push back a little bit here. Anita is not Elon, is not Donald Trump. She is the owner of the team de facto. It sounds, she's not the villain of Charlestown. I don't think that's the way we should think of her. It appears that the team was her husband's and he has died. So we've seen the wife getting the team in Major League, where she tries to tank the team to punish the husband. Ted Lasso, wasn't that the same deal? Ted Lasso, she was trying to tank the team. Here, she seems to be hands off. She's getting her information. Hey, my accountant said we're happy that you've been packing the stadium. Thank you. She seems open to the idea of selling the team. She says, maybe, I probably could sell it. She's not closed any doors. That is until Reggie calls her son a cocksucker. At that point, it's understandable that she is going to try to just screw him and say, I'm going to pass off the team because to me, it's not worth the time. My accountant said I could write off. It's not her fault. She has no responsibility to support the team, to pay the team. She hasn't done anything to it. So I don't think we can blame her completely.
I think the problem, though, is look at how she's living her life. Look at all that she's got, right? She's living a life of opulence. And this team is like just a thing that she has. And she could sell it, but she's choosing to take the tax write-off because it's more profit for her. But understanding that in doing so, there are people whose lives are on, that's their job, that's their livelihood. And you're willing to take that away when you already have so much. I just find it reprehensible. It's, you know what it is? She's a Scrooge.
Well, she might have been about to say, how about I give everybody a bonus? I pay everybody a year's salary. She might have done some of that. And the idea, Gene, of going to Florida, they poo-poo it in this movie. Like, you're going to go down to Florida. People are shady. Who's going to enjoy hockey? I want to talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning, Gene. They have 3 Stanley Cup championships in the last 20 years. That's more than any Canadian team, or even a few Canadian teams put together. Reggie was onto something. If he had spent more time actually going out through his contacts and trying to get a team in Florida to be interested, maybe they would have sold it. But instead, he's too busy hurling slurs and getting drunk and trying to bang friends' girlfriends. And we've grown up with all of these misfit movies where they're trying to overcome the odds. They're going to find redemption. I'm thinking it's going to happen. They've gotten the wins. Maybe the team's going to go away, but they're going to find some way at the end. They're going to come together as a team, and they're going to find the talent and the strength in one another. Thankfully, that does not happen. And they flip it on its head. There is no redemption or sportsmanship. There is just chaos. The Chiefs don't win because they have skill. They don't come together. They doubled down on what made them famous and got the crowds packed. It is the blood. It is the fighting. And this happens in the championship game where Reggie has a change of heart. We don't understand why. All of a sudden, he's going against what has worked for the team, which has gotten the team to gel. And he decides, we are going to play the old school way, the way it didn't work. He comes into the team in the locker room. He admits that he has lied. The team is being disbanded. They're all unemployed. And we're going to change the tactics. He's a complete fraud, and they buy into this old-fashioned way. I wanted somebody to call bullshit and say, Reggie, you're a piece of shit. We're not going to follow you. This change of heart and this new approach, it was trash.
I think the film establishes early on that Reggie is both the team's coach and like a bit of a league legend, as you mentioned, Big D. My guess is that they look to him as a leader and they show him like that degree of respect, that of loyalty, at least enough to stick with him for his last hockey game. And I think that's the big thing, right? It's his last game. It might be all their last games. So they want to kind of follow, once more into the breach. But I agree with you. You have to go with the strengths that your team has. They have one goal scorer. They have one guy that can put up goals. And the rest of the guys, they're not particularly gifted. The goalie's not particularly good at stopping shots. The forwards aren't particularly quick or skilled. What you've got is some guys that can put bodies on other dudes. You got to lean into that, right? And I think that if you looked at an NFL team that didn't have a great quarterback or receivers, but could have a blistering running game and a strong offensive line, you run the ball. If you got a team that's got a shitty offense, but your defense can put the hurt on guys, you lean on your defense. This all makes sense to me.
It wasn't like in Sandlot when they told Benny the Jet, hey, we're not going to have you hit for power anymore. We're going to become a team that pitches. And you can't pitch. We're going to have the other guys play. No, you play to your strengths, Gene. I totally agree.
Well, Dunlop and the rest of the team, except Ned, immediately switch back to brawling, much to the delight of the fans. However, when Ned sees Lily cheering for the Chiefs, he enters the ring. Instead of joining the brawl, he performs a live striptease, adding to the audience's enjoyment and breaking up the fight. When McCracken protests this obscene demonstration and sucker punches the referee for dismissing him, Syracuse is disqualified, granting the Chiefs the championship. After the win with the Chiefs folded, Dunlop accepts an offer to be a player coach on a Minnesota team, intending to bring his teammates with him. In a parade held for the Chiefs, he unsuccessfully attempts to convince Francine to stay with him, and he watches her drive away.
So, Jane, in a lot of the other films that we've covered about sports, they're often a love letter and even sometimes a subtle way to the sports. In the end, you will find what is it about the sport that people love? What is it that draws us to it? What is it that's made it a national pastime? As we get to the end here, Gene, it's a very strange film that got me going down the Westworld rabbit hole of, was there something below the surface that maybe true hockey aficionados would only see? Because this ending is ridiculous, Gene. It's not overcoming to win. They don't have a miraculous goal. There's no last second coaching decision that changes. The game devolves into a full out brawl. And for people who have not seen this in years, then a strip tease from a player who had quit the game and assaulted the radio guy and bitten him. He skates around naked to the band playing a striptease tune. The crowd loves it. They stand and cheer. The Chiefs win by default. And it's fitting. It is the irony that this team won because the other team became so upset that they went to the officials and they said, this dancing is obscene. It is mocking the seriousness of hockey. This championship game, you need to stop it. And what the ref did was he threw that team out. And to me, it's a bow on the heart of what Slapshot is. It is critiquing fighting and the mess and violence that hockey is, that disguises itself as a sport of skill and that is about passing and the beauty of hockey. At the end, this striptease is the ultimate hockey mockery. It is the most ridiculous on-ice display that ends in a victory that shows how ridiculous hockey can be sometimes.
I feel like you just jumped in the captain's seat of the SS overthinking it. You said, Gene, get out of the way. You took my little captain's hat. You sent me overboard. Maybe I got like a little tiny life preserver and I'm just shouting in the wake of this ship, Big D, what the fuck are you talking about? You're overthinking. This is a funny ending. The striptease, it's 100% more ridiculous than on-ice fights. You can't compare the two.
No, but he says, the one player says, he's mocking the game. He's mocking the seriousness as these men are brawling all over the ice and there's blood. That was the mockery, not this handsome man doing elegant striptease.
I have a different take on the ending. I appreciate the realism of what the Chiefs accomplish here. There is a reason why I don't like movies like Little Giants, why I don't like movies like The Mighty Ducks. Because they set the bar for success too damn high. You said Big D. It's either the grizzled vet or you got the misfits, but they always end up winning. They like win the fucking championship, right? They win the big game. This bowl season, Arizona State got a first round bye and they nearly came back from a 16-point deficit against Texas, against fucking Texas. Did I want to win that game? Yes. Am I still incredibly proud of the Sun Devils? Also, yes. Like, progress is in itself a victory. You don't have to win it all. You don't have to save the team. You don't have to get Francine back to have accomplished something. And I love that Reggie has to move to Minnesota and he's still living the same fucking life. The Chiefs get dissolved. The steel mill is going to close. In another movie, they would have somehow the championship, they would have saved the steel mill. Everyone would have, and they would have gotten into the NHL somehow or something. It's a bittersweet win. It's such a sobering kind of movie. I really appreciated that.
This day is the highlight of the town's life, every player's life. It is all downhill from there. And there's a moment where Reggie's ex is moving conveniently, and she's got her car packed up with everything she owns, a little trailer. He lets her cut into the parade route. And you think he's going to run over and convince her. He finally sells her on, I got that job. I'm going to the big city. I got good things coming my way. And he's like, why don't you come with me? And you see in that moment, he's lying to himself. Yeah. He knows she's never going to come back. He knows there's no future for him in hockey and coaching. He will fail and he will sabotage his life. The town, like you said, will die. These guys will never play again. It is a dark, sober, sad ending to where she diverts off the parade route and drives off as the credits roll. And man, for a movie that's funny and people think of it as a comedy, it was a symbol of just this town dying. And it was very sad to know what life would lead Reggie after this. That Reggie would be a sad guy who believes his own bullshit, but deep down inside, he knows he's going to be alone. The wife's not coming back. He'll never succeed. It was a dark, kind of sad ending at the end.
It was Jimmy Carter's malaise speech. God rest his soul. Now's the time of the podcast for a Shat Score. Our Shat Score is our way of telling you how many wipes this movie takes to get a perspective. But 0 wipes is a perfect movie. It's fucking the last girl in the ice extravaganza. And 5 wipes is an absolute disaster of a movie. It's when your brother calls you a pussy and changes the station. Big D, we'll start with you. What is your wipe score for Slapshot?
This is longer than most comedies we've done. It's over 2 hours. I think it's chaotic. I think it has an interesting take satirically that I believe on minor league hockey, but it leans a little bit too heavy into the absurdity. I think the Hanson Brothers are great. They're memorable. I had plenty of laughs with the background characters, the on-ice action, some of the conversations in the bars. It's not the typical underdog story, but I didn't think that's what it necessarily had to be. It's entertaining, but the balance of Reggie's unlikability and the relationships, it was, in small doses, I could see how this movie has a cult following, but as a full sit down, I'm going to watch the full 2 hours. I don't think I would do it again, but better than average. I think 2 wipes is fair.
People talk about how horror movies were better in the 70s. People talk about how Westerns were better in the 70s. I got to say that if this is any indicator, sports movies were better in the 70s, because I was feeling the entire vibe of this film. This is the rye whiskey of hockey movies. It'll get you drunk and smiling like it's a mellow bourbon, but then there's that peppery kick that burns and it lets you know you're alive and it's just a little nasty. This is an ode to all those Midwestern dive bars that I miss so much, where things smell like stale beer and snow and cigarette smoke. I felt this movie at my core. The fashion was to die for. The violence was perfectly funny without being cutesy. And what it really did was take oddball characters and make them strangely so real. Like, they felt like real people, but they were also incredibly strange. I loved it. It's 1 wipe for me. And with 1 wipe from me and 2 wipes from Big D, that gives us an average wipe score of 1.5 wipes for Slapshot.
So, Gene, with a score of 1.5 wipes, that now ties this in the 108 spot with Lock, Stock, 2 Smoking Barrels, The Rocky Horror Picture Show, 3 O'Clock High, Naked Gun, Stand By Me, Magnolia, Scarface, UHF, Galaxy Quest, Friday the 13th, Spaceballs, Stooge, and The Thing. A lot of films in there.
I think the 1.5 wipe mark is the kind of, I would watch any of those movies at any time, but they're not like the greatest movies I've ever seen.
No, I think for me, this is at the bottom of the list. But like you said, some of the interactions and scenes are memorable. They're classic. And again, maybe it's like cult films. Like when you go back and you watch them in subsequent viewings, it'll grow on you. So I think that's a possibility. We'll have to see.
All right. Well, thanks, John, for the commission. We have a few voicemails to get through tonight. The first one comes from Alex in San Diego.
Hey, Shat Crew. This is Alex from beautiful San Diego. I'd like to first start off by saying Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you fellas. I know this will probably show up around, I don't know, January, maybe a little into February, but it doesn't matter. I'm still feeling the holiday season. I just finished your latest episode about Muppets Christmas Carol, and I gotta be honest, I'm a little surprised. That movie is just an absolute classic. I love the fact that the Muppets play it all straight. I get that you want Muppety Muppets, but man, seeing them do the Muppets like that was so good. The Muppets Christmas Carol is probably the best Muppets movie out of all of them. You got to keep in mind, the Muppets are all actors. They even in the Muppet Show, they were actors. They're doing a play. They're doing an act. So for them to be actors in this Christmas Carol, it's just amazing. I don't know. I just love it. I love that Michael Caine plays it so straight that it's like, I don't know. It's the best of Michael Caine. Fun fact about Michael Caine, if you want to say Michael Caine's name in his accent, just say my cocaine. My cocaine. See, there you go. So a little fun stuff for you guys. Anyways, love the show. I keep listening every week, man. I love that I haven't missed a week in a couple years now. It's just been fun. Keep it up, fellas.
Well, Alex, thank you so much for being a longtime listener, dedicated listener, and calling in so often. Always love hearing from you. I thought you were going to give us the other interesting fact, which is that Michael Caine's actual full name is Maurice Joseph Micklewhite Jr., but Michael Caine also is a handy tip.
I also want to say that, yes, I know that the Muppets are actors and they're on a show and they're playing in-world characters. Then don't create characters just for this retelling. Have it be all of our Muppets going out there and being some of these characters that are threatening, bizarre. Then I'd buy into it. But you can't create in-world characters that never appear anywhere else.
To clarify what Alex and Big D are talking about, listeners, when we say that the Muppets are all actors, the Muppets themselves, like Kermit, Miss Piggy, Animal, their profession, the character's profession is actor.
They're actors.
Not that actors are playing them. Of course, actors are playing them, but they themselves, all the Muppets, are actors professionally.
Yes.
Yes.
Correct. Yes. And again, I want a Muppet take on Vietnam. That's what I think we're missing.
Well, Alex, thank you for your voicemail. As a counterpoint, we got a phone call from Adam from Philly who had different thoughts on Muppet Christmas Carol.
Hey guys, Adam from Philly here. I know you've been really worried. I haven't called in a while. My apologies. Everything's fine. You can all calm down. Now we got that out of the way. Just finished up the Muppet Christmas Carol. First, I am a massive, massive fan of the Muppets. And second, I am so glad you guys are in agreement with me that this is not a very good movie. It squanders the whole purpose and use of the Muppets, which you said very well. And compared to the actual Muppet movies, like what Big D said, the fish out of water stories, and I'm even including the Great Muppet Caper and Muppets Take Manhattan, like it pales in comparison, especially from a music standpoint. Guys, I couldn't agree with you more. I will say it is an unbelievably faithful adaptation of A Christmas Carol, but like that's what I didn't sign up for that. I signed up for some Muppet bullshit. I ain't get no Muppet bullshit. So I agree with you, and I have thought this for years, and I've been shamed about it. Like, you love the Muppets, how can you not love this? Well, I don't, and you guys rule. Now I got people backing me up. That's why I love you guys so much. It also sparked me. I got a few other commissions I got to start thinking about. And out of these, you guys tell me what you like. I just brought up Great Muppet Caper. Would love to commission that for you. Muppets Take Manhattan. Would love to commission that for you. And here's one. So the movie that came after the Muppet Christmas Carol was Muppet Treasure Island. Now, this is also an unbelievably faithful adaptation of the story. However, this is when the Muppets get up to some more Muppet bullshit. They're not just sitting there and just in the background. There's some Muppety bullshit in Muppet Treasure Island. Tim Curry puts in an amazing performance, and the songs are super fun and super memorable. That's a much better adaptation of a classic book than I think A Christmas Carol is. That's just me. A lot of people don't agree with me. But, hey, what out of those three, what's your vote, guys? Great Muppet Caper, Muppets Take Manhattan, or Muppet Treasure Island? I'll leave it up to y'all. You know what? For you, Gene, I'll even throw in Muppets from Space because I know that's like your favorite. Give me your vote on those four, guys. All right? Oh, and to conclude, New Zealand is the guy that throws the fish. You had it right. All right? New Zealand's the fish thrower. Love you guys. Bye.
Gene, I'm going to go to you because you seem to have some distinct Muppet feelings.
So I think Muppets Take Manhattan is the most interesting of the bunch. I know that Muppets from Space is my favorite. Muppet Treasure Island is an interesting one because I think other than Ice Pirates, have we done any other pirate movies?
Not Hook. We did Hook.
Oh, we did Hook. That's right, because we did two pirate movies.
Yes.
And we've done some space movies. We've done Fire in the Sky. We've done Last Starfighter, Star Wars.
Dude, on the cover of Muppet Treasure Island, there's skulls. Skull and bones. And it looks wild. Tim Curry looks bizarre. Yeah, I would vote Treasure Island or Space because you enjoy it. Muppets Take Manhattan looks like more of the variety show. There's a lot of guest star appearances, and the Muppet Caper is like, seems like it's Piggy centric, where she's on a motorcycle. It's not exactly screaming, I want to see it to me. So I would go with either Space or the Pirates, but you choose, Gene.
Adam, let us think about this for a while. I'm going to put a poll up as well on Instagram and see what we get from the listening audience, because I'd like to see what other people think. But we'll get back to you on that. Thank you so much for your call. Next up, we have a voicemail about Run Lola Run.
Hey, Shat crew. This is Katja, international listener from Austria calling. Love your show. Looking forward to every episode that comes out. Recently, I listened to the Run Lola Run episode and just wanted to give you a couple of pointers that might have gotten lost in translation. You kind of poo-pooed the movie for a couple of logic flaws, and I think that might have been due to some translation bits that you might have not caught by reading the subtitles. So let me get into it. So one of the points was that you said Manny should have just not gone through all this trouble. He should have just gone to the big boss and just talked to him about it, right? He would have understood. In the beginning of the movie, however, we hear that he explains that he had a problem with some cigarettes, like some bag of cigarettes that he stole some from. And so this is kind of like a test. The money bag is a test whether Ronnie can trust money. So it's not an option to go to him a second time and be like, oh, sorry, lost the money. So that's the explanation for that. One of the points was also whether it's reasonable to expect a supermarket to have 100,000 Deutschmarks. And Manny says on the phone that a friend of his had told him that the supermarket makes about 200,000 Deutschmarks a day. Remember, at the time, there are no credit cards in Germany like that. There's no debit cards, so everybody pays cash. And with the assumption that the store makes 200,000 a day, it's reasonable to assume that by midday it would have made 100,000. In the casino, Lola bets 100 and gets back 3,500. So that works out with the odds 1 to 35. And the second time she bets the 3,600 and gets, 129,600 back. And the guy even asks her to come with him. And she says, oh, just one more game. So that works out too. And the ultimate point, what makes all this work? It's the ultimate power, love, right?
Okay.
Manny says in the beginning of the phone call, in the beginning of the movie, love, you always say love conquers all, but this it can't do. So in the conversation in the bed, Manny asks if Lola is unsure about the relationship, and she says she thinks she needs to make a decision today. Then we cut back to her lying on the street, and she says, yes, I want to. It's the power of love that allows her to will time back by 20 minutes. And the same is true the second time when Manny dies. He says that in the second part of the conversation in bed that this time he needs to make a decision whether he would let her go or not. And he decides he can't let her go. So he comes back to life, or time goes back 20 minutes, I guess. So the ultimate thing that makes this whole thing work is love. Love conquers everything. Love even conquers death and time. So I hope these few points from things in German might have helped out a little bit in explaining this movie. I remember loving it back in the day. I loved it again when I rewatched it now. Maybe even you can reverse the Shat score or something. Thank you so much for everything you do. I love your podcast and have an excellent day.
So, Gene, with all transparency, this is my cousin from Austria. At Thanksgiving, she came to New York with the family, and her and I were having a heated discussion on the couch. And my mother's like, it's so great. What are they talking about? And it turned out Run, Lola, Run. And she was adamant that the translations that we got misled us. And I'm passionate, Gene. I've never seen this from her. That love, usually the Austrians and the Germans, they're very methodical. They're very scientific. But somehow love can conquer time and space. And she was adamant that we did this movie dirty.
I mean, love is not going to make me rewind the clock several weeks and rescore this movie. I think you got what you got. But Katya, I do appreciate you calling in. If nothing else, we got an Austrian on the pod saying poo poo, which is very fun to hear. Also, Big D didn't read the subtitles to begin with, so the translation was not the issue. And Manny's friends telling him that there was 200,000 Deutschmark in the grocery store. I don't. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy that has reliable friends with good information. I would say that's suspect at best.
No. But Gene, she's offered her service of anything Austrian.
Oh, okay.
In the future, she could be our translation or cultural expert.
I mean, if you want to get us a couple Glocks, that'd be nice.
Oh, she's got a 9mm. She's a big shooter.
Katya, my kind of gal. All right, and in a related bit of news, we got an email from listener Mark who wanted to clarify on the Deutschmark point. He says, "Hey, Shat Crew, Mark here from the UK. First time writing in, I just thought I'd share what I remember about the long since defunct Deutschmark. Growing up in Germany with my dad being stationed there, I remembered it was approximately 3.3 marks to the British pound. Basically, my dad used to say a night out drinking with his army buddies was incredibly cheap. Not sure what that was then in US dollars, but when they switched to the euro in 2000, it finished at 2.36 Deutschmark to the British pound sterling. That's about 1.86 Deutschmarks to the US dollar. Thanks for the pods over the years. I listen to everyone, even the movies I've not watched. Ta-ra from the old country, Mark." So I think this confirms that our math was a little suspect on this episode, along with the roulette and the Deutschmarks. We apologize, guys. We'll work on our international money skills.
I was struggling. I really, you're right. The subtitles, it was the speed of the conversation. It was difficult. It was difficult for me. So thank you. I take the correction in stride. And Gene, before we say goodbye here, I want to just touch base on one last thing quick. Recently, Emma did her 4th year raising money for the American Heart Association Kids Hearts Challenge. I put out a last-minute plea on social media if anybody wanted to donate, and I said, let's make it interesting. Emma was willing to get some skin in the game, and we did a raffle, and we said $10 entries. We'll pull one. So if you donated $100, you get 10 entries. And the winner was Shane A. Shane A., you know who you are. Write us in. Thank you for the support. Emma was able to, with the help of her school, let's see what Emma raised on her own. But Emma's school was able to raise $4,700, and Emma raised $659 total. So
nice.
Thank you, Jean, for contributing. She's passionate about it, so she was excited. So the prize was a kid-safe film, no year boundaries. You can choose what you want it to be, and Emma and I will record a short podcast together. She'll watch it. She'll take notes. You get the full treatment. So Shane, let me know what you want to do, and we will sneak it in there. But she's excited to thank everyone, and it meant a lot to her. That means a lot to me.
And speaking of the power of love, Big D, I just want to point out that this concerted effort to help out Emma, to help out the kids with their hearts, brought me and Roger Roper together. I noticed that both of us gave into this fund. And Roger, if you're out there listening, good on you, my friend. Good on you for giving to a worthy cause.
You see, there's always hope. Love can conquer space and time. Maybe it can conquer Gene and Roger.
Oh my God, we're gonna get so many voicemails and emails like, you guys gotta get the podcast back together, the original 3.
Anything could happen. Katya told us anything could happen.
Well, thank you to everyone who called in. Thank you to everybody who wrote in. Thank you to John for commissioning this film. Big D, what do we have coming out next week?
So, Gene, next week, it is a special episode. And I say that a lot, but it truly is. It is the acting debut of Dick Ebert. It's my film debut. I don't have an IMDb page, but people, I do appear in this film. It is a Traumaville classic. When Traumaville honor students are transformed into rampaging freaks when toxic waste leaks into their water supply, all hell breaks loose. Commissioned by Ronnie S. And again, this was I think I was maybe in 7th or 8th grade. This was filmed at my high school. I appear at the end, and I'm eager to hear, Gene, what you think of my performance and if I should have stuck with it and become dedicated to the craft of acting.
I mean, you've definitely got that charisma. You got that charm. You're basically the Paul Newman of podcasting.
Yeah. That could have been the Paul Newman of Traumaville, of B. Schlock horror. But it's never too late, Gene.
All right, that concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. Email us, host@shatpod.com. Support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own movie. Find all the information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all information on our website, shatpod.com/TV, wherever I find podcasts can be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. And if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Happy New Year, and be sure to join us next time for the following movie.
Welcome to Tromaville High, an average American high school with one exception. It's located only 1 mile away from a nuclear power plant. They said it was 100% safe. But they were wrong.
There's no danger, Governor. We have the situation well in hand.
Welcome to the class of Nukem High.
We're the youth of today.
Yes, at Nukem High, anything can happen. And does. The class of Nukem High, where you'll learn the 3 R's. Reading, writing, and radiation. The class of Nukem High. Rated R.